Testing 1 2 3 test 1 2 3 test. Testing 1 2 3 test 1 2 3 test. So let's just do that. So you don't need it, right? 1 2 3 test 1 2 3 test. Can we go to your web browser? Like whatever else is going on. Do you have here like well, maybe that's fine. Let's see. Close that.
Yeah.
Change the pen to widescreen. Just replace it.
Yes. We stand up and say, I'm drawing. So if you're here, are you gonna be?
Yeah, I'll be there. So I go to the University of Miami for school, but I'm actually up here. They have a really great program. Let's get to be externship in DC. I'm up this semester. Also, so I'm able to get full time at BA and really get an unbelievable experience. Yeah, will you be by later today or I know?
Yeah. So
Really not right away, but when we do start, we just have.
that part of we are subletting. Yeah, upload the room so like in the BA
On the other side.
Yeah, so I'm planning to planning to either.
Oh, that's awesome. Have you been by the office?
Oh yeah, they're like
Okay, fantastic. Yeah, I know we have.
So that's like, I mean, the reason we got it is less for me, more for my senior colleagues, so that we're not living issue. Are like, we just been spending so much time here to do us writing for the reasons that we thought it'd be really good to have something a little bit more stable, like longer or like smaller random stuff that we should like make big routes. Obviously the team is super excited. That's been great. Yeah.
It's here for you to the whole.
Totally. Also, it feels really good. I'm like, Miller, Mega, like others who are media. Good morning.
Sure, you can check it. Yes. Thank you guys. Thank you, welcome. Yeah. Yeah, that's so great. Yeah, I learned a question. Members that are coming in, conversations they have with our policy team. I sit in the room with Michael and Swaw, policy analysts. And from the legal side, kind of get the same policy side as well. Really
The bigger room.
Yeah, the big yellow.
I walked by that class, all like.
Awesome. Yeah. So I came to law school to get started. I'm not a developer. I got really into the industry starting around 2019, 2020, and I was working in sports, and so I had a lot of exposure to sports agents and JDs or a good portion of them have JDs. So it is, yeah. And so pandemic hit was like many others. I felt never had been inclined to get into the law or anything like that. Why not take the LSAT? Kind of left the sports interest and then got fully going myself like crypto and really focused on administrative law and kind of the relationship between the executive agency and information technology, especially where Chevron's going to go. That's the Chevron will be modern technology. I think the most critical question going forward for the law. I'm actually I was elected last month, so I was with all of you, and I'm putting on a privilege. So yeah, so might be reaching out, at some point to, to get any speakers or anything like that, but,
I would love to. A huge part of my job is to like go around and talk with like central bankers and bank supervisors in particular, which tend to be very great. And I enjoy this conversation. So that is like my hand, right? Just to figure out ways of explaining market knowledge and how directly regulate objectives, like this is their future.
Test 1 2. 1 2 test. Testing 1 2. Test test. 1 2 3 test. Testing, 1, 2. We're going to get started in just 2 minutes. 2 minutes. Anybody know how to make an event go live on LinkedIn? No, I've got that. It's like in a pre-live state, so it's not like live. I'm not sure how to get that done. Oh well, we'll put it up later. We have to move on. All right, I think we're all good to go. Well, welcome to the Pretty Good Policy for Crypto meeting. Thank you all for coming. Thank you for making it to this new venue. Hope you're enjoying it. I'm very happy with the way it's turned out. It's a little hard the first time getting everything organized, but it looks great. And we got a full room, which is outstanding. I'm Paul Brigner, Vice President of Strategic Alliances at Electric Coin Company. We're the creators and supporters of Zcash. We're here today to share information, build a stronger crypto policy community, and talk about pretty good policy for crypto. You all know that. We've been doing this for over 2 years now. Before we dive into the PGP updates, I want to thank our sponsors and supporters. This beautiful venue is made possible by the VanEck Digital Assets Initiative, or VITA for short, at the University of Southern California. I was there just last week. They had the Southern California Blockchain Conference. I think they do a couple of those every year. Truly outstanding. If they're not on your radar, you need to tune into what they're doing and maybe even take a trip out there. It was beautiful weather, of course, as it always is in LA. Additional partners include the Blockchain Association, Coinbase, and of course, my employer, Electric Coin Company. Please mark your calendars for our next meeting on April 18th. That's a Thursday. We normally have these on Wednesdays, so please note the change for just next month. Outstanding lineup today. It's going to be tough to get everybody in, but I think we will. And I want to start with an update from the Hill because we have very special guest, Lizzie Fallon. She's with Whip Emmer's office, and in case she has to run off, I want to give her the opportunity to go first. And I think she also will just help us set the stage for everything that's happening in crypto policy. So Lizzie, please.
Hi, everyone. It's great to be with you guys. Thanks, Paul, for inviting me to give some opening remarks. I'm lucky to know many of you guys in the room already, but for those I have not met yet, my name is Lizzie Fallon. I'm the legislative director for the Majority Whip Tom Emmer. In this role, I manage Tom's legislative team, and my primary focus now and for the past nearly 4 years is to help Tom carry out his financial services policy work. To be honest, I distill my job down to being a crypto staffer, so it's really great to be with you guys this morning. In fact, this is my first PGP breakfast, and this is what I love about working in crypto, whether we're in the Solana meme coin spring or the dark depths of crypto winter, we will always find a get together. We'll always have a conference to go to. And when we don't have either of those, we'll have Ron's memes to DM back and forth to each other. But in a very serious and non-cringy way, crypto is about community. This technology connects people directly so we can transfer value peer-to-peer over the internet, and that's something we haven't been able to do before crypto. At a high level, policymakers like my boss are tasked with capturing opportunities for our constituents and for our country. A peer-to-peer digital economy is a massive opportunity. But we can only capture this opportunity and make the United States a homeland for crypto innovation by crafting policies that embrace crypto's unique, open, permissionless, and private characteristics. If we instead craft policies that suppress those core crypto characteristics, we risk fumbling the opportunity to design a digital economy that unlocks opportunities for all Americans. It will happen with or without the United States, as my boss always says, and it's ours to lose. In the 9 years that Tom Emmer has been in Congress, his work on the Financial Services Committee has been motivated by these promises of crypto and blockchain technology. And he's authored legislation to put the United States at the forefront of how we treat these assets, like the Securities Clarity Act and the Blockchain Regulatory Certainty Act. We believe that in these efforts to support blockchain innovation, we must both allow for the existing financial system to evolve and modernize, and we must safeguard the integrity of our money. As you know, Whip Emmer leads the CBDC Anti-Surveillance State Act, which prohibits the Fed from issuing a surveillance-style CBDC. This bill is co-sponsored by over 130 Republicans in the House. And while the crypto community tends to be less focused on the topic of CBDCs, I believe that this is the bridge issue that the crypto community needs so that everyday Americans can grasp why crypto matters. Our office and most other Republican offices in the House have seen that our constituents of all ages very easily grasp what a CBDC is and why they do not want one. That's not the same for crypto yet, but understanding this will help those same people see crypto as a solution to the problems posed by a CBDC and subsequently to care about crypto policy. Today, Congress is crafting a promising path forward. Under the tremendous leadership of Chairman McHenry, we have a market structure solution and a stablecoin solution on the table, both of which embrace the unique characteristics of crypto technology. We look forward to continuing to work with the committee on those efforts and continuing the work to get these bills passed out of the House. In any policy fight, strength is in numbers, and the crypto community's secret power is its strength in convening, organizing, and challenging unjust authority. This posture has made crypto policy matter on the Hill in a very short amount of time, and it's the same posture that has yielded tremendous results in the courts. It's woken the public up that crypto is freedom, and it's so fun and rewarding to work with you all to defend that. So thank you so much for inviting me to join you all and to open things up this morning. And please always use our office as a resource and help us strengthen our work. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Lizzie. That was really inspiring. Appreciate all the work you're doing. Hey, Andrew Samuel, are you here? Would you mind coming up, please? So Andrew is our sponsor at Coinbase, and we'll thank him for being a part of this. And say a few words, please.
So hello, everyone. I'm Andrew Samuel. I'm a senior policy advisor at Coinbase. Within the policy team, basically, I'm the banking and payments guy. I'm very excited, deeply honored to be joining this wonderful gathering. Really excited to continue to be a part of PGP. Thank you, Paul. Right, I feel like there's a great community, there's a great vibe. Excited to continue participating. A few quick thoughts, right? So I started working in crypto policy in March 2022, which is when I came to Coinbase. Before that, I'd been a bank regulatory lawyer at a big firm in New York. And if I were to try to distill one thing that I've learned in my 2 years doing this work, it's that I came in with this idea that like good ideas can change the world, right? And that's true. I do believe in that. But I realized that the work is not just to come up with the good ideas, because good ideas without people who are trying to get support for them, they don't really go anywhere. Like the real work is to take the good ideas and to build a constituency in support of them, right? It's to do the yeoman's work of building support and ultimately consensus to get something over the line. I do believe that blockchain and crypto technology are a huge innovative breakthrough with a lot of potential to do some good in the world, in our society, in our economy. But at the same time, like, that technology, even if we believe that ultimately the financial system will move to a tokenized architecture, that this is going to be an important part of the world that we live in, that could be a quick process that takes a couple years, or it could take decades and generations for us to ultimately realize the benefits of this technology. I think that's really where policy work becomes so valuable, right? Because if we are able to get the policy around crypto and blockchain technology right, that's just a huge opportunity for us to minimize the downside and ultimately to realize those benefits a little bit more quickly. So I love what's happening here. I love that we're all coming together in this room to start to build community and to start to do some of that work of building support in favor of good ideas. And the last thought is I'll say this building, this moment, the situation in particular really resonates with me because I think it is a great metaphor for what we're doing in crypto in the first place. Like this building is it's still under construction. There's a lot of work that's happening. And even as we're still doing the work of building it, we're already using the space. I just find that to be a beautiful metaphor for what we're doing in crypto policy more broadly. And yeah, thanks everyone. Looking forward to continuing. I think it's part of this move.
I feel very, very fortunate to have such a good partner to work on this activity. Thank you, Andrew. That's outstanding. So another good friend and leader in crypto policy, Rashawn Colbert, is going to come talk to us. He's at DYDX, and he's been putting out some really interesting material lately. So Rashawn, why don't you tell us about what you've been up to?
Hey folks, my name is Rashawn Colbert. I'm the head of policy at DYDX Trading. We run a decentralized trading protocol called DYDX. So I'm here to talk a little bit today about our DeFi policy principles. So we've been thinking at a high level, how can we communicate to people how we're thinking about what DeFi policy should look like in the future? So a little bit about DYDX. So DYDX Trading is founded by Antonio Giuliano in 2017. He's still our CEO today. We're based in New York City. DYDX is, like I said, it's centralized trading protocol, a DEX, for the trading of perpetual futures. We're one of the biggest DEXs in the world with about $1 billion to 1.5 billion in trading volume a day right now. That's around 10% of the DEX market total. So we're basically flipping every day between number one and number two with us and Uniswap, to give a little context. So in the fall of 2023, we open sourced the version 4 of the protocol with our own chain, the DYDX chain. It's a centralized standalone blockchain with the Cosmos technology, self-custodial, everything denominated in USDC, all fees accrued to DYDX token holders. So it is a decentralized protocol. So before I get into the principles a little bit, I want to talk about what we believe in at a high level. So number one, that DeFi is different. You can't fit it into the same regulatory box as the financial infrastructure that has come before. New technology means new trade-offs. There are new benefits and new risks. Those have to be accurately or adequately dealt with, and we think that new legislation is a way to do that. We also believe that DeFi should flourish in the United States. I mean, this is that sounds like it's obvious, but a lot of people do not believe that that should be the case. We see attempts from policymakers, we see attempts from people in the business community to make sure this technology is overseas, both I think intentionally and inadvertently with some piece of legislation. So we think it should flourish here. And thirdly, the time to act is now. The United States can often afford to move a little bit later than some other places. We can use the world as our sandbox to see what types of regulations and policy work in other jurisdictions and other countries. But I think that there's a golden moment and there's a fine line, and we're nearing that now. If we don't move in the near future, the United States will be left behind. All right, so our principles, high level, there's 6 of them. Consumer protection, disclosures, market integrity, equality of access, criminal activity, and innovation. So the first, consumer protection, what's in the best interest of the consumer? We believe that user funds should be secured through safe and transparent mechanisms on DeFi protocols. So this is things like self-custody. You should have control over your funds yourself. Transparency. You should be able to see what's going on. I think the technology should also be open source. Obviously, there are steps. There's a path to get to each of these things. You don't come out the gate and in a perfect state of open source and not necessarily have full transparency. But if a DeFi protocol isn't building toward this, then it may not be in the best interest of consumers. So consumer protection, number one. Number 2, disclosures. How is important information shared with others? Users should have access to accurate and complete information about the DeFi protocols they use. Again, this is the open source nature. This is documentation that should be accurate. There should be user privacy. That information should be secure, and decentralization. Again, that's a part that's on a sliding scale. You move toward decentralization, progressive decentralization, as we've called it at DYDX. But protocols should be moving this way. Third, market integrity. So how does DeFi fit into the greater financial ecosystem? DeFi protocols should be financially and technically secure. So along with cybersecurity, which when I've talked with policymakers often and who understand DeFi, this is pretty quickly where they go. They say, okay, great, like users control their own funds, but what if attacked? That's a good thing to be worried about. So cybersecurity standards must be optimal. You must be following all the best practices and be as secure as possible. But along with that, there must be a financial structural soundness to protocols. They have to be well thought out so that manipulation isn't easily conducted. Obviously, it's possible to manipulate any market, but there should be safeguards. There should be protections against manipulation. All right. Fourth, equality of access. Access is critical in crypto and in DeFi. Who gets to use it? We believe that all users should have equal access to DeFi protocols. No advantage participants, not for the government, not against the government. We've been also looking at MEV as part of this. Like, how can we make sure that when people use protocols, they're, again, kind of getting what they signed up for? Criminal activity. How do we deal with bad actors? We love crypto. I think that this room is filled with people who have our best interests at heart, but we know that there are people looking to take advantage of others within our space. So how do we deal with that? DeFi protocols should empower law enforcement to be able to best recover from incidents. They empower law enforcement, again, by reinforcing the transparency and the equality of access we talked about before. It should be an ease of auditability. This is a critical piece. Right now in our financial ecosystem, it's critical that regulations work so that government and lawmakers, law enforcement can see into companies to make sure that they're making the best decisions. Well, if a protocol is transparent, then they can audit it just like anyone else, any time of the day. We have to think about national security. How does this work? And also there should be appropriate incident disclosures. If something happens on a protocol, and if it's regulated in some way, then there should be a disclosure. There should be transparency here. And then lastly, innovation. Again, DeFi should flourish in the United States. So it should be able to freely developed to promote competition. So we're looking at national competitiveness. How are we squaring up against our competitors on the world stage? Obviously, it's critical, I think, that this innovation happens here. Should be permissionless. Anyone should be able to access this technology, to build this technology without having to get permission first. And this should encourage competition within the United States. Obviously, this means there are still many open questions to be answered. Who is responsible ultimately for these things? How do we translate these principles into law? How do existing players fit into this structure? And how do we also measure decentralization? So, and many, many more. This really is supposed to be the start of a conversation that I've, would love to hear from the people who are in this room. From how do you think about these ideas? What can make them stronger? What principles should we be adding to this or taking away? So I hope to hear from you. Again, I'm Rashawn Colbert, head of policy at DYDX, and thanks for your time.
Hello, just so you know, I have this roaming mic. I can bring it over there for anybody over there. There's also both of those stands over there are microphones, and there's a microphone here. So if anybody wants to, have a comment or question, you're welcome to do that too from wherever you are. All right. I love those principles. Just outstanding, Rashawn. Thanks for your leadership. Our next speaker is remote today. He's Rodrigo from Paradigm. So can we get Rodrigo on?
Hi, good morning. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. It's coming through great.
There's a little bit of an echo on my side, but thanks, Paul, for having me. I'm Rodrigo Seda, special counsel at Paradigm. I really appreciate the chance to be with you this morning, and sorry I couldn't be there in person. I wanted to give brief update on the Security Alliance today, which is an organization that was launched by Samsung, who is the head of security at Paradigm, along with a bunch of other industry participants. And I thought I would start quickly with a little bit of context on the issue that we're trying to solve, and then go to give an overview of Security Alliance, and then one of the latest projects that we're working on. So I'm going to try to do that now. Sorry, can you guys see this now? Is that working?
It is.
Okay.
I'm sorry. Yes, that's working.
Great. So I think the high level context that most people in the room are probably familiar with is that there's a growing narrative in policy circles that crypto has been used to facilitate illicit finance, right? I think the most salient example of this was the Wall Street Journal article after the Hamas October 7th attacks. Was quickly kind of weaponized by a lot of crypto critics and used as a reason for why we should adopt kind of draconian KYC policies that would be really devastating for crypto. In order to counteract this, and sorry, there's a lot of in my screen, but I'm hoping that you guys can still hear me well. In order to counteract this narrative, we think it's critical for the industry to be proactive. And I think on one hand, reach out to the regulators and start a dialogue, increase kind of like lines of communication, and also just try to harden the ecosystem to make it less likely that more attacks will continue. So in this spirit, Sam, like I mentioned, who's the head of security at Paradigm, launched the Security Alliance, which is a nonprofit group that is intended to work on security projects that are kind of in the public good. So far, they three different initiatives, and I'll be talking a little bit more in detail about one of them. The other two are the 911 bot, which is a protocol that projects can use to quickly communicate when they are facing an exploit in order to reach like the right folks in the community. Seal has also been doing war games, which are basically kind of exercises with different protocols where they would go through a simulated exploit and help the projects respond to that in real time. And then the project that I wanted to talk about today is what we refer to as the White Hat Harbor. And it's meant to address a specific issue that has come up in crypto, which is when ongoing exploits are basically observed by white hats in the community, and they have the ability to rescue the fund, but are not necessarily incentivized to do so because of fear of personal liability, right? You guys might all be familiar with the Nomad Bridge hack, and I'll take you through a quick chronology here of how the exploit was discovered. So in August 2:37 p.m., somebody tweets out that it seems that the bridge has been hacked because there are a bunch of suspicious transactions that are taking out 100 rapid from the bridge. 10 minutes later, this is Sam's avatar. He's in contact with a bunch of people from the project and the general kind of security ecosystem more broadly, and starts looking into it, right? As folks are trying to look into the exploit and figure out the cause everyone is starting to see more and more transactions come through and keep taking funds out of them. By just like an hour after they had noticed the exploit initially, Sam has figured out kind of what the cause is, which was a faulty kind of upgrade of the but during this whole time, basically the balance in the bridge has continued to evaporate. Here you can see the total value locked in the bridge. This kind of cliff that you see here is the exploit, right? And so the root issue here was basically an exploit that was publicly visible. There were a bunch of people like Sam that were able to diagnose it quickly and had the ability to themselves sweep it and rescue the funds. But doing so potentially expose them to personal liability, right? So to try to address this issue and provide a framework that incentivizes hackers to be more involved, we came up with calling the white hat safe harbor. At a high level, what it is it's a legal document that projects can adopt. There are issues as to how the adoption can happen, but that sets for procedures that white hats can observe in order to be have limited liability for rescues, right? And those procedures include returning material part of the. So we worked with outside counsel and took a bunch of community input for the white hat safe harbor. Are now in the process of soliciting more community input. So the legal document itself is up on GitHub, and we would welcome any suggestions. And the next step that's going to be happening is we're going to be rolling this out a couple of projects that actually adopt it, and eventually, hopefully, it'll be released in the wild. I'll stop there and happy to answer any question.
Thanks, Rodrigo. Great initiative. Any questions before we move on? All right. Thank you very much. Oh, we do have a question. Hold on one second.
Late breaking question.
Hey, Rodrigo, this is Robert Reuter, and I'm curious if anyone in the room wanted to get involved, how could they support this project that you just presented?
So the broader org is open to the public. If you guys want to get involved, you can either tweet at Sam or John. I can put the contact info. Here, let me. They're I don't know. I can be involved. I think there's a chance to get involved in the broader org, and then specifically for the white hat safe harbor, we're actively looking for people to comment on the document on GitHub, and then are also going to be working with the community to talk to projects to try to get it adopted. So I'll follow up all to get the contact info and love to have folks get involved and
Great. Thank you very much. Appreciate that. Okay. Our next speaker today is Miller Whitehouse Levine from the DeFi Education Fund. Miller, come on up.
Good morning, all. I hope you're doing well. My name is Miller Whitehouse Levine from the DeFi Education Fund. My update today is that on Monday, we and a co-plaintiff sued the SEC over two issues. The first, our co-plaintiff is a small bag manufacturer, like duffel bags, based in the US, and the founder is really into digital assets. The business, though, is generally unrelated, or excuse me, totally unrelated to digital assets, except for the fact that they created BEBA tokens. The name of the company is BEBA, and airdropped them to potential customers, gave them away for free to potential customers on Base, which is an Ethereum L2. The BEBA believes that the SEC will incorrectly view that airdrop and future airdrops to potential customers. Think of it as almost for marketing purposes to be securities issuances. And at the same time, believes the SEC is incorrect on the law with that conclusion. So they are preemptively suing the SEC, alleging that they have a credible fear of enforcement because the SEC has brought enforcement actions in similar fact patterns and is asking the court for a declaration that their airdrop and planned airdrops of their BEBA tokens are not investment contracts or securities transactions. Separately, we jointly bring an APA claim alleging that the SEC's adoption of a nearly all digital assets and transactions involving digital assets policy was invalidly adopted because they did not go through notice and comment when they came up with that novel premise. So the idea here, which is a bit unique, is that we believe the SEC, I don't know exactly when, but after Chair Gensler entered office, ended its policymaking deliberation process and landed on this fifth prong of Howey that is a digital asset involved, and if so, an investment contract is likely present. And we are asking the court to find the SEC must go through notice and comment if they hope to adopt a rule to that end, which is not to say that their adoption of such a rule would stand judicial muster from a statutory authority perspective. So that is the thrust of our case. You can kind of think about the two claims being separate but related in that the enforcement and regulation by enforcement in the crypto space and as could be applied to BEBA is an implementation or an expression of the SEC's policy that they adopted without going through notice and comment. I am happy to answer any questions.
People won't hear you.
I'm Carol Van Cleef. I'm just curious in the first case, why take the SEC head on when there's a whole set of laws and regulations that you could potentially have brought that airdrop under? As you said, it's marketing, a marketing tool, sort of a form of a prepaid gift card, that type of a thing. And I think the SEC would probably welcome a well-argued, well-reasoned setup like that. And not necessarily bring it under the securities laws. What made this airdrop, why were they more concerned about the securities laws in this case than maybe they had to be?
I think that they are concerned about the securities laws because of the totality of the SEC's approach to crypto.
Planning on having that token trade at a later date? Are they planning on
It's
listing the token? It's
airdropped
already
on
out
Base.
there.
It's on Base. The recipients who didn't even know they were going to get it can do whatever they want with it. There can be a secondary market, which to your point is always of interest to the SEC. It's on a public blockchain, so it's out there.
So there are other indicia of a token offering or a token issuance that were present that would bring it closer to why they would be concerned about the SEC.
Yeah, I think the SEC would certainly and wrongly assert that.
Please, there's a microphone right there. If you just stand up and talk into that podium right there. You won't hear it here, but just talk. Yeah.
Tell us about protocol without operation higher than the business. Give us a breakdown of it.
Well, I think, first of all, we've got a lot of history in issuance of points. Go back to the green stamps of, the old days, real old days. But we're used to doing that, and we have a method, and people actually did trade those. I think the technology has created a different platform for the trading. But I think once we get into the token world, and I think where it gets a little bit fuzzier, shall we say, and why you would be more concerned about the SEC is how many of those tokens are you airdropping? Is it a reasonable number? If if you're getting your green stamps, or you're getting the stamps from the cleaners, or wherever it might be, or points from the cleaners, it's usually proportionate to what you would be spending in a period of time. And I don't know what the ratio might have been here. So I can go on at length, but I don't want to take up too much time here. But there's a lot of precedent there. But my guess is that part of this whole token issuance involved sort of the usual tokenomics, and the founding team got some tokens in this process, and we're going to benefit from the fact that these tokens were ultimately going to get listed and traded somewhere. So there's probably a number of different factors that would raise some concerns.
And Carol's going to send you a bill for that, Ralph. But anything else? Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Miller. All right. I want to bring up Dan Spooler. He's the Senior Director of Industry Affairs at Blockchain Association, really good friend. I wanted to put him up right up front, but I sometimes get mixed up in my order. So sorry about that, Dan. That please.
Yeah, as Paul said, I'm Dan Spooler. I head up industry affairs for the Blockchain Association. I think I've met everybody here at one point or another over the last few years. I'm here to talk about jobs. Today, I don't want to call it too early, but I think we're just about past the crypto winter, certainly when it comes to the labor market. So I put this chart together for everybody. I had a call with Bloomberg News last week. They actually approached us regarding the state of the market recovery, not just, and this was specifically regarding crypto. So this chart was fascinating once we crunched the numbers, because as you can see, it really correlates. If you look at CoinMarketCap, or not just the Bitcoin market cap, but all the CoinMarketCap, the jobs labor listings have a fascinating way of correlating with the actual prices of coins. So what I want to do today is just want to dive into some numbers here. It's easier. We put together some statistics indicating the market recovery, and a variety of metrics that we use, increased coin values, investor confidence, and I think we're seeing a real solid shift in the market and its timing. So last year, 2022 was a particularly rough year, not just for the prices of our digital assets, but for the labor market as well. There was widespread layoffs. Couple that with inflation, couple that with the interest rate increases, tech companies, risk assets across the board really suffered, and crypto was no exception. Then with the cataclysmic collapse, of course, of FTX, late 2022, our jobs listings data really, it began to hit an all-time low, roughly January 2023. So here we are, Q1 2024, and you can see slightly we're on the way up. We're on the way up again. And I think we'll revisit this. We'll probably have a little more thorough analysis in the coming months. I'd love to do this again. But I think this year, and certainly next year, we're going to see a rise. I mentioned that to Bloomberg. The article's just been posted, I think, a couple of days back. But part of the other discussion that I had was with some of our counterparts at other cryptocurrency job listings. So get this, cryptocurrencyjobs.co, they've seen a 50% increase year over year in job postings between January and February of this year, and then a further rise of 45% in March compared to the year prior. Then another group, Crypto Jobs List, said it's seen almost double the number of jobs ads it had in March of 24 compared to just a year ago. And then our board, which we launched, we launched this right in the middle of early 2021. So it's been a really good way for us to track the metrics. And again, we represent a little over 100 companies, some of the largest in the ecosystem. So we have like a microcosm of some of the industry's largest players and where they're hiring, where they're looking. We have had a little over 1,700 postings right now, which is up from fewer than 1,000 just a year ago. And so during the peak of the 2021 bull market, we had a little over 3,000 jobs. So I think The industry's certainly matured. And if you want to switch to the next slide, actually, the industry's matured quite a bit where we've have now a lot more institutional players in the game that really weren't around. But what I'm seeing from our side, some of the major centralized exchanges that are enhancing their efforts, actively seeking to seek new talent. Some of the ones that come to mind that I've seen recently: Coinbase, Kraken, Gemini. I'd throw Circle in there. I'd throw E16Z in there. Some of the very large companies, some of the companies that are pre-IPO, let's say. Fidelity's looking to add about 22, as of yesterday, actually, I checked it out. They're looking to fill 22 crypto-related positions, including a trader of digital assets and a VP of crypto investment risk. These are all new job titles that really weren't even around a few years ago. Then BlackRock mentions digital assets and dozens of job ads, including one for a VP of digital assets and an ETF legal counsel. So again, that's just as a result directly of the ETF approval a few months back. And another thing I've noticed, and I'm sure you're seeing this just in your day-to-day life, there's a lot less career risk when it comes to getting into our industry. Whereas, 3, 4, 5 years ago, a lot of the top talent that worked on Wall Street or in big tech, they were a little reticent to jump into the ecosystem, but now they're not. And that means that there's also more competition. There's more TradFi folks that are interested in our space than we saw during the last bull run of 2021 and certainly 2017 and 2013. Just a quick highlight, some diversity of the roles that are being advertised. I'm seeing a broad scope really of interest growing in marketing, certainly compliance, and then the legal side. Business development and marketing, those are obviously growing right now too. That's pretty traditional. I think a lot of times you'll see they're the first ones in, and unfortunately, they're also oftentimes the first to get laid off in a hypothetical bear market. So there's a lot of driving factors behind this rebound, and there's a great future outlook. Again, I'm very confident over the next 12 to 18 months, couple that with the halving, couple that with the investor confidence and the overall economy. I think things are looking pretty good for our industry. So I'd be happy to take some questions. But again, this was just a rough overview of where we're at. But I just want to give everybody some confidence going into the new year. So you have some questions?
Yes, we do.
Oh, good. All right.
So just a quick question. You did mention legal and compliance being two of the bigger areas. Do you have any numbers around compliance now? Certainly when you see the enforcement actions that we've seen and other activity going on, and I guess sort of anecdotal information.
Yeah, so the exchanges are all absolutely beefing up their teams on the compliance side. And then the layer ones are too, actually. A lot of the actual projects, the protocols, the foundations, it's not just the financial service players and the exchanges. A lot of the actual crypto native projects and foundations are actually growing too on the compliance side, which is interesting. It's a testament too of the work that we've been doing with the regulations at the SEC and on Capitol Hill.
Other questions? Okay.
All right.
Thank you very much, Dan.
Yeah, appreciate it.
Now I'd like to invite Robert Reuter to come up. Robert's going to give you some updates on the work he's been doing. You probably have seen Robert speak at our prior events with talking about WebQ, but he's got some news about how that's expanded and other things. So please, Robert.
Thank you, Paul. Boy, I've got to say, it feels so good to be back in DC with my family here. And welcome to the new members of our family. And thank you so much for your support. Looking at VanEck, USC, Coinbase. It's great to see the room grow with faces that are invested in coming together to discover solutions to some pretty complicated problems, right? This is an exciting time. Now, most of you know about my work at WebQ. WebQ is an LGBTQIA plus advocacy organization in the digital asset and DWeb space. Those of you that have seen me present here before are aware that our take as a community is that we as a community have the keys to access just about any room you can imagine, simply because our allies and our family are present. And if we look at the digital asset industry, we've seen some measurable harms and damages to that community and some of the key policy stakeholders. So with that being said, the digital asset industry has an opportunity to invest not in use cases, but in case studies that can measure a positive impact to the community of the queer community, as well as women that were also harmed through a lot of this FTX contagion. These two voter blocks are the two most influential voter blocks of the Democratic Party. And so in any case, I tend to go down that rabbit hole a little bit because it's something so personal, but it's not the reason I came here today. The reason I came here today to make an announcement to my family is effectively a second coming out. And that's that WebQ, our family had so much reach when we came together that we realized that it was imperative that we look to solve a bigger problem. The problem of our community needing to identify itself to each other in public spaces such as Consensus, where we did our visibility campaign. That problem was solved relatively easily. But next thing you know, we had so much reach in the room that we started to discuss broader problems that we could solve together. And so I'm proud to announce today that WebQ has evolved and is now a community development initiative with the Inclusive Design Institute. The Inclusive Design Institute is designed to align the stakeholders from community, industry, and governance. And we have found that by listening to community and by centering the voice of community, we can find the support that is required across industry and governance to move complicated policy forward and to bring our family together. So in any case, coming up, we will be at Consensus again. WebQ, as a community development initiative of the IDI, is going to be doing our visibility campaign and meetup yet again. We've also opened a membership program for allies and also for members of our family. Encourage you to join that. It is a sliding scale membership, so feel free to come and participate and engage with our community. And then the Inclusive Design Institute is also going to be hosting a Congress at the beginning of Consensus with other community leadership groups, to include the Association for Women in Crypto, La Familia, and other analog community groups, so that we can align our messaging and bring a clear and concise ask forward to the industry on how to more deeply engage communities that have existed long before digital assets. So I look forward to all of you reaching out. I look forward to coming back next month with some more details and a more clear outline of the programming that's currently being developed. In the meantime, on this next slide, you'll see the QR code under Sponsor Us at Consensus. That's actually my personal contact information. If you'd like to learn more about the research and policy initiatives that we have in the works, feel free to reach out. And in the meantime, I look forward to catching up with all of you while I'm here in DC. Thank you.
All righty. Thank you very much, Robert. Great work. Happy to welcome our next speaker, Grant McCarty from the Bitcoin Policy Institute. Grant.
Appreciate the pity claps there at the end. Yeah, I'll try to keep this pretty brief. I got three high-level points I want to touch on here. One is yeah, like a lot of people have mentioned before, met a decent number of you. There are also a few people here that I haven't met. Want to introduce the Bitcoin Policy Institute. We're a think tank researching Bitcoin and other open monetary networks. We established our organization just a few years ago, and ultimately what we wanted to do is create a space for more academic, more epistemic credibility when it comes to Bitcoin and crypto policy, right? So we are officially a 501c3 organization. Obviously, we engage in spaces like this. We talk to various people in industry, various trade organizations, but ultimately, I think the primary value of our organization is we try to be a layer removed from the broader Bitcoin and crypto industry. At this point, we have 20 academic fellows who are producing research and policy analysis on Bitcoin and other crypto-related issues. We've been focused on central bank digital currencies for the last couple of years, been focusing on digital decentralized identity. So a lot of, again, crypto adjacent issues that don't necessarily, come down to what is a security versus what is not. One thing to flag, 3 of our fellows recently wrote a book. It's essentially making a philosophical case for Bitcoin. We've been supporting, we support all of our researchers through independent academic grants. This book is going to be used as the foundation for a lot of, college classes. And so what we're really trying to do again is kind of take an approach that is, yes, policy oriented, but also broader than that, more on the academic side as well. So we've been partnering with organizations like Cornell Tech Policy Institute. We just did an event at the UCLA Law Center, or Law School, excuse me. So that's a little bit of an overview about our organization. We're hosting a graduate colloquium in a few weeks for a bunch of graduate students so that they can read about Bitcoin, talk about it in an academic space, and then go back to their universities. We're going to be hosting having a thesis prize. So, giving a prize for the best Bitcoin or crypto related thesis. So if any of this is of interest to you, please reach out. And then on top of that, we're doing a lot of work on the Hill. So the thing I wanted to flag is we're hosting a conference in 2 weeks. Everybody hosts a conference. I know, feel free to, fall asleep right now. But we've got the Bitcoin Policy Summit in 2 weeks. A lot of you are already coming. If you can be there, that'd be amazing. Please reach out. Thing I want to make very clear, right? We're the Bitcoin Policy Institute, but I'm also sitting here in this room, right, talking to a broader crypto community. And the reason I mentioned that, the thing I want to stress is this is not a hostile environment, right? You get a lot of Bitcoin maximalists who would not be in this room and would not really want to engage. We're the Bitcoin Policy Institute because we think it's important to carve out distinct discussions in the crypto space, not because we think everything else is horrible and a scam and we shouldn't engage with it, right? So ultimately, we think having Bitcoin-specific conversations opens the door for DeFi-specific conversations, for stablecoin-specific conversations, for CBDC-specific conversations, et cetera. So just want to make that very clear. Please reach out. We're willing to engage. And then finally, last thing I want to flag is Bitcoin mining, right? There's been, I think, a propensity in the crypto space sometimes to say, hey, Bitcoin mining uses a lot of energy. Let me tell you about this amazing thing called proof of stake and why Bitcoin sucks and why crypto and DeFi is so amazing. Again, we'd really hope that this is a less hostile environment, right? I think if you learn anything from being in crypto, it's that just because you can throw somebody under the bus in one moment doesn't mean that you're not up next on the chopping block, right? So ultimately, Bitcoin mining, increasingly, we're viewing this as flexible load. It is essentially monetization of excess energy, right? And so viewing just data centers, high performance compute as monetization of excess energy. Ultimately, we're not trying to create value judgments on valid or invalid uses of energy. We'd encourage that type of conversation around Bitcoin mining. If you're interested in learning more, engaging with any of our academics and researchers, please reach out. Love to have you at the summit. Please reach out. Thank you so much for your time.
I love that approach. Thanks a lot, Grant. Thank you for being here. I look forward to the Bitcoin Policy Summit. Okay. Well, that wraps up our formal agenda, unless I've forgotten anyone. If I have, raise your hand now. Oh, I did forget somebody. Oh my goodness. Nick, I'm so sorry. You are on my list and I just get distracted sometimes. Come on, please. Sorry about that.
No worries. I'll make this brief. And thank you, Paul, for always putting together these meetings. They're always so great. I'm Nick Carr, I'm the Chief Strategist for Stand With Crypto. We are working to unite and coalesce the 52 million Americans that own cryptocurrency together into one voice. I want to move to the next slide. I think last time we presented, it was right before Stand With Crypto Day back in September. And since then, we are now almost at 400,000 crypto advocates, which is remarkable, and over 150,000 policymaker contacts. On standwithcrypto.org, you have easy-to-use tools to contact your members of Congress via email and call. And we've actually also, since Q1, introduced a new feature. If you go to standwithcrypto.org/vote, where you can actually check your voter registration and receive a free NFT. we partnered with the NFT artist People Pleaser for this NFT right here, where we're actually encouraging people to check their voter registration and receive a NFT on chain. And we're actually over 18,000 mints on chain, which is remarkable. Move to the next slide. So obviously, since September, we've been pretty busy. We actually, in December, held the very first crypto presidential forum in Manchester, New Hampshire, where we had 3 presidential candidates on stage speaking about crypto, the first time in our nation's history. And since Q1, before Super Tuesday, we've actually activated on-ground advocates. We've had over 80,000 touch points on voter-to-voter contacts across doors and phone calls. And here are just a few key examples where I took a few races where actually, it's funny, if you compare this election cycle compared to 2 years or 4 years, you have more candidates and policymakers actively talking about crypto, adding it to their website, engaging on it in a public setting. It's very different than 2 or 4 years ago. So we're really excited to keep turning this out, turning out the voters. And if you want to go to the next slide, the day before Super Tuesday, we actually held a major, another major moment in our nation's history, the first crypto get out the vote event in history in LA with Grammy award-winning rapper Nas. We also had a few remarkable speakers from Brian Armstrong and Jesse Pollack and Latasha. And what was great about this was it was the first time crypto advocates came together. We had a maxed out room. We could not get any more people in that room. We had 500 in the room. The fire marshal was telling us no more people in the room. And we had lines around the block and people who were there for crypto, which was remarkable to see. And what was great was we didn't just have, the Grammy award winner rapper Nas perform, but also there was a panel discussion of why Nas and People Pleaser actually was present too, on why they are engaged in crypto firsthand and why they are choosing to be involved in this community. So it was a really remarkable moment to see. Next slide. Here's just a few quick highlights of folks online using Stand With Crypto's voter guide, which talks about policymakers and candidates firsthand on making their decision who to vote for. Again, we're not telling anyone who to vote for. We're just giving them tools on where policymakers stand on the issue firsthand. I just want to move real quick to our kind of next phase. We just introduced last Wednesday a candidate questionnaire, which is going out to federal candidates on House and Senate races, which is really exciting because right now we have a lot of current elected officials on the site, but now we're adding candidates more and more to standwithcrypto.org and our candidate questionnaire, which will be public, where candidates can actually make a public stance on crypto on races across the nation. And we're proud to introduce candidate forms, which we're kind of recreating our December presidential candidate form in a House and Senate style. So that's kind of where we're moving to. So it's a really exciting time. We're excited to come back in a few months to present again and hopefully be over 500,000 at that point. So thank you so much.
Thanks, Nick. I think I need a teleprompter to keep me on track up here, so I keep track of my list. Hey, you guys are in for a hot update because apparently there's some news that came out while we've probably been in this room, and we have Christy Littman from Wilkie, the law firm, here to give us an update on something that you should definitely be aware of.
It's my hype man. I'm Christy Littman. I'm a SEC enforcement defense attorney at Wilkie, Farr and Gallagher. While we were sitting here, the Coinbase decision came out. Judge Faila in the Southern District decided she's continuing the case. So the SEC, most of the SEC's claims against Coinbase will continue. But some good news for, I think, the DeFi protocols in the room is that she dismissed the broker charge. So she found that Coinbase wallet did not qualify as a broker as alleged by the SEC. Specifically, she said that it didn't offer order routing and or investment recommendations. So while the case continues against Coinbase, it doesn't exclusively decide anything with respect to whether the tokens were securities as they traded on the secondary market, but does specifically exclude the broker charges, which I think is a little bit of good news that we don't really see a lot out of the SEC a lot these days. So more to come, but everyone should take a look at the opinion when you get a chance.
Thank you so much, Christy, for that hot take on that. Well, I want to thank you all for being here today. This has been truly a fantastic meeting, a great way to start off in this new venue with our new partners, which, of course, I want to thank again for their support. We will look forward to seeing you on, the 18th of April, I think it is, that Thursday. So April 18th, we'll be back here. And actually, I'm going to just share the rest of the dates. They're the dates aren't like fixed until the invitations come out, but I want to get them on your calendar. So whenever the next invitation comes out, I'm just going to give you the list of tentative dates for the rest of the year. Thank you all for being a part of this community, and keep up the great work working on crypto policy. Pretty good policy for crypto.